Isabella Stewart Gardner is shaking things up with its first ever fashion show. It's a contemporary look at very ancient Mexican traditions. WGBH News arts editor Jared Bowen introduces us to designer Carla Fernandez.
To designer Carla Fernandez, fashion is language.
When you see someone at the street, before you talk to them, you see how they're being dressed. And they know, you dress and you know that people are going to read you.
Fernandez's language, though, is an ancient one. The Mexican designer, now receiving a layered show at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, creates clothing with rich threads to tradition. Her colleagues and inspiration are the women of Mexico's indigenous regions, who in some cases are employing techniques thousands of years old.
So where did your interest come in being a designer to go back to tradition?
I do it very naturally because I think the best designers in Mexico are living in the communities, and I always say that why should we as Mexicans will be like doing pizzas if we do great tacos, It's like, so I create fashion together with these communities that have like the most amazing sense of color and pretty avant-garde silhouettes. So that's why I think I can compete in the fashion world.
The Gardner show, the barefoot designer, tours us through Fernandez's designs and her heart, the processes and collaborations that fuel her ready-to-wear and haute couture lines. And make no mistake, she says, the women with whom she collaborates are equivalent to the seamstresses of Parisian ateliers.
What's the extent of the work and the labor involved for those handmade pieces?
It depends. We have, it's like, for example, the poncho that we have here, it can take 3 weeks to be made, but then we have some garments like the chamula coat and the skirt that they can take like 4 months. Then we have very simple embroideries that can be done in a day.
Here we find dresses, ponchos, and suits crafted in the same tradition as charros or Mexican cowboys. The deep ebony of this poncho derived from mud.
What I also particularly liked was just the notion of mud, that mud is the best dye.
Yes, it's full of minerals. You actually take the fabric and sink it into the mud, into the swamps. And that black never fades away. Black has a lot of problems then if sun absorbs it and just fades away. And this one, you take it, I've seen textiles that are like 150 years and the black is shiny, amazing. That is haute couture. That is fashion, and that is what we want.
Fashion is at the core of what Fernandez's artisans envision, she says, even if the rest of the world doesn't see it that way.
Sometimes we think that they don't have a sense of fashion, that they just dress all the same. But if you see ourselves in the cities, we all use jeans and T-shirts, and it's the same, They tell me, it's like, no, but you're the one that you don't have fashion because you all dress the same, and we do.
The Gardner is a fitting setting for Fernandez's first ever U.S. solo show. The designer was an artist in residence here last year and grew enamored of Mrs. Gardner's fondness for fabric.
It has influenced totally this exhibition because I think Mrs. Gardner had this amazing eye for art and for textiles and for everything she acquired and shows in her amazing museum. If you go and see how she framed these beautiful fabrics, besides an unframed beautiful painting, then you will see how she had this passion for both arts, for popular art and for the beaux-arts, the main, like painting and sculpture. And that helps a lot because sometimes people think that you as a fashion designer that you're a minor art.
But Carla Fernandez has designs on turning those impressions inside out.
And Jared Bowen is here. Well, Jared, are these designs commercial or are they all literally museum pieces.
Well, she has two lines. One is an haute couture line that is very, very high-end, just like you'd find in Paris, Dior, any of the other major brands who do those very significant pieces for a very select audience. But she also has a ready-to-wear line. So the haute couture line are largely the pieces that are done. You know, she goes back to these traditions and she works with these women, but they're her designs. It's her taking fashion forward, but very fully mindful of what's come before her in making these garments in Mexico. And the ready-to-wear lines also inspired, but a lot of them are more machine-made.
I see. And the indigenous women, are they part of her team? You know, how do they operate?
They are. She's really changed fashion in the way that she's worked, because she's gone back to these different regions, and she works with, there are about 5 different regions in Mexico that she works with, and each have a very individual style and voice and vocabulary in terms of what they're doing, but they actually work with her, they get paid, they are absolutely part of the process.
All right. So you also got something coming up this week. You got an interview with actor and theater producer Alan Cumming.
Well, we know him well here, because he's the host of Masterpiece Mystery, and Alan Cumming just recently returned to Broadway in the role that really made him famous as the MC in Cabaret. And it's been many years, but he's gone back in the same sexed-up style that he had before. So I talked to him about why he wanted to go back to Broadway at this point.
I'm in my 50th year, and partly the reason I'm doing Cabaret is because I thought it would be a great thing for me to think, I'm 50, and I'm doing this. I'm dancing kick lines with girls more than half my age, or less than half my age, however you look at it. And, you know, and that's kind of an amazing achievement, to be still that lithe and strong.
He's a character.
He's a great character, and he's so vibrant. And so you can see more of that interview Friday at 8:30 when Open Studio airs. We also air at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. But there's a lot that we talked about in addition to returning to Broadway, where he won the Tony for Cabaret. We also talked about The Good Wife. There was a big shakeup. He plays Eli on that show, and there was a big shakeup when a major character died. So I got his take on that. And
I missed that he was in that.
Well, but that's because he disappears into his characters. I mean, he's so good at playing all of these different characters. He completely disappears, and he even told me that he thinks the host, as he's the host of PBS's Mystery, that's even a character that he creates. It's just the way he is. So, I think it's largely due to the fact that he's mixing up theater and television and film. He's also doing some animation work, some voiceover work.
Must be nice to have that much talent.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, me either. All right, Jared Bowen, thanks so much.